There's perhaps no more fundamental aspect of the creative process than the generation of ideas. After all, in order to create something, you need to have at least some idea of what it is that you're going to create. As such, ideas are pretty valuable commodities in the creative world. Young artists in particular tend to be very protective of their ideas, wary of those who would steal them. And of course, there's also the dreaded writer's block, or complete inability to come up with an idea. When we talk about ideas, there's one word that often comes up: inspiration. Depending on who you ask, inspiration can mean one of several different things. Some hold the view that inspiration is something that happens to you, randomly and without warning. You wake up one morning and boom, you're inspired. An idea has decided to present itself to you of its own volition. A different notion of inspiration is that you take inspiration from other things, whether they be other works or incidences in your life or whatever else. You experience something and you come away from it with an idea related to the experience. This second notion is closer to what's actually happening when we come up with ideas. It describes the principle of constraint, or of restricting one's thinking in a certain way. Really, every idea is conceived using constraint to some degree. The constraint could be genre, style, school, or a specific technique or plot element. Ideas are never just plucked from the domain of all possibilities. There's always going to be some kind of narrowing of focus, whether it's a conscious process or not. Once we recognize that all ideation is based on constraint to some degree, we can make deliberate use of it to fuel the creative process. Rather than twiddling our thumbs waiting for inspiration to arrive, we can seek it out by imposing constraints on ourselves. This works because constraint presents us with a problem, so in order to find a solution, we engage our creative thinking and critical problem-solving skills. One especially cool thing about constraining our thinking is that it can lead to more creative results than unconstrained thinking. If we think of a simple math problem, for example, given a particular relationship, applying unique constraints will more often than not lead to unique results. In other words, if you approach a problem in an original way, you're more likely to produce something original. Let's look at a musical example. Arnold Schoenberg was known to write some of his music using a rather complex system of constraints, one of which was to place equal importance on all 12 tones of the chromatic scale. You can hear an example of this by following the embedded link. This is a kind of music that won't just spontaneously enter your head if you're used to thinking within the constraints of conventional Western tonality. It is a product that can only be achieved through the deliberate use of constraint and not through a passive deferral to the whims of inspiration. So now we've seen what constraint can do for us as creators. It's a versatile tool that can not only help us come up with ideas, but also to ensure that these ideas are original and inventive. In the next video, we'll be taking a look at the kinds of impacts constraint can have on an audience and how it can be used to convey information.